Have you ever stopped to wonder what an apology truly means in the grand scheme of human interaction? We grow up believing that saying "I'm sorry" is a simple act of kindness or a humble admission of fault. But what if, beneath this veneer of civility, apology is a far more complex tool, a mechanism not merely for peace, but for control? It is not the apology they seek, it is the submission behind it, the surrender of your strength and narrative. In a world driven by perception and influence, apology becomes less about healing and more about hierarchy. The moment you apologize, you are handing over a piece of your authority. It's an unspoken transfer of power, a moment where you acknowledge not just your mistake, but their moral or social superiority. The apology, then, becomes a currency in a transaction far deeper than you realize: the currency of dominance. This is why many who demand apologies do so not to mend fences, but to assert control. They want to see you bow, not because the truth demands it, but because their ego requires it. This dynamic plays out constantly in our personal relationships, workplaces, and even in broader social interactions. You might notice how some people are quick to demand an apology as a way of winning an argument, not seeking reconciliation. What they are really after is your admission of defeat, your acknowledgement that their perspective holds more weight. It is the silent message: you have been put in your place. The apology is the exclamation point. But power is not lost with a genuine apology alone. It's lost when you apologize from a place of weakness, from fear, or because you feel forced. The difference is subtle yet profound. A true acknowledgement of fault, when it stems from understanding and self-awareness, can be an act of strength, a reclaiming of your own narrative through honesty. But the forced apology, the one extracted by pressure or manipulation, is a submission dressed in polite words. Those who understand this wield apologies like weapons or shields, whichever suits their agenda. They know that demanding an apology is a way to shift the emotional battlefield. When they provoke an apology, they are seeking leverage. They are trying to rewrite the story so that you are cast as the villain, the one who owes them. And in that narrative shift lies their power. To resist this dynamic, the first step is awareness. Recognize when an apology is demanded as a weapon and when it is genuinely sought for healing. The difference is often in the intention and context. Is the demand accompanied by a desire for understanding and resolution, or is it accompanied by contempt, dismissal, or an attempt to silence? This distinction can save you from falling into the trap of unnecessary submission. There's also a deeper lesson about the nature of forgiveness and pride. Forgiving without apology is a sign of inner power. It is the ability to rise above conflict without needing the other to validate your experience. Forgiving someone because you need closure is different than forgiving because you hold the power to let go. When you forgive without demanding an apology, you reclaim your emotional sovereignty. Furthermore, consider the role of narratives in shaping how apologies function. Society has conditioned us to equate apology with moral correctness, but narratives are malleable. The story of who is right or wrong can be contested, shaped, and controlled. When you apologize without conviction, you may unwittingly accept a narrative that diminishes your own truth. But when you hold your ground, challenge the imposed story, you assert your own reality. This is why silence can be more powerful than words. Choosing not to apologize, or choosing to respond in a way that refuses to concede moral ground, can disrupt the power dynamic. Silence is not weakness. It is often the loudest statement of strength. It forces the other person to confront their own position without the easy satisfaction of a forced apology. At the same time, mastery of apology involves timing and intention. There are moments when a well-placed apology can open doors, heal wounds, and transform relationships. The key is that it must be on your terms, when you are ready, and when it aligns with your authentic understanding. Apology given freely and consciously does not diminish you, it enriches your integrity. Yet, the challenge lies in discerning when apology is a true act of growth and when it is a trap. The line is fine and must be navigated carefully. The wise recognize that their value does not depend on universal approval, but on their own moral compass and self-respect. Ultimately, the apology is a mirror reflecting deeper truths about power, identity, and narrative control. It reveals how we negotiate our place in the social hierarchy and how we protect or surrender our inner sovereignty. Understanding this empowers you to engage with others on a level beyond surface politeness, to see the subtle undercurrents that govern human interaction. In the end, they do not want your apology, they want your submission. Your genuine strength lies in knowing when to give it, when to withhold it, and when to wield it as a tool of your own narrative power. To truly grasp the power dynamics behind apologies, we must explore what lies beneath the surface, the psychology of the human ego, and how it demands recognition. When someone insists on an apology, they are, in essence, demanding validation. They want their hurt acknowledged, their version of events confirmed as true. This need is deeply rooted in the desire to preserve or elevate one's self-image. An apology, therefore, is not just about the act of admitting fault. It is about affirming the superiority of one's experience over another's. This quest for validation often blinds us to the real question: who controls the story? Because when control of the narrative shifts, so does power. An apology signals a moment where the storyteller changes. By apologizing, you implicitly accept the other person's version of reality as the dominant one. You allow their perspective to overshadow your own. And once that happens, your influence in that relationship diminishes. But what if the truth is not as simple as who is right or wrong? What if truth itself is layered, subjective, and contested? Power lies in understanding this complexity. It lies in refusing to be boxed into a single narrative, especially one that demands your subjugation. You maintain power when you hold multiple truths simultaneously and refuse to sacrifice your own voice. This understanding is why some people choose not to apologize, not because they are stubborn or unkind, but because they recognize that their autonomy is at stake. Their refusal is a deliberate act of self-preservation and resistance. They understand that words have weight, that admitting fault without genuine conviction is a loss of self. This does not mean they deny responsibility, rather, they reject the imposed framework that would diminish them. In social contexts, this refusal can be misunderstood as arrogance or cruelty, but in reality, it is a statement of internal sovereignty. It means they are prioritizing their emotional boundaries over external demands. They are saying, "I will not sacrifice my sense of self for your need to feel dominant." This stance is difficult because society often rewards compliance and punishes defiance. Yet, it is in this very defiance that true power is cultivated. Consider how this dynamic plays out in the workplace. Apologies here are often transactional. A manager demands an apology not because they seek truth, but because it reinforces their authority. A colleague demands an apology not because they want peace, but because it positions them as morally superior. The individual who submits loses more than just face. They lose influence, respect, and autonomy. Yet, this does not mean apologies are never useful in professional settings. When given authentically and on one's own terms, they can rebuild trust, restore cooperation, and demonstrate maturity. The difference lies in intention and context. Are you apologizing because you recognize a mistake and wish to grow? Or are you apologizing because you feel pressured, coerced, or manipulated? The social scripts around apology are also gendered and cultural. Some cultures value public apology as a form of social harmony, while others prioritize personal honor and may view apology as weakness. Understanding these nuances can help you navigate the complex terrain of interpersonal dynamics. It also helps explain why some people apologize easily, while others resist. On a personal level, the act of apologizing involves deep vulnerability. It requires confronting one's own imperfections and admitting fallibility. This is often terrifying because it threatens our carefully constructed identities. Our ego wants to be seen as competent, righteous, and strong. To apologize is to expose the cracks in this armor. But this exposure, paradoxically, can lead to growth and deeper connection if it is done authentically. This is why the difference between a forced apology and a genuine one matters so much. Forced apologies create resentment and hollow peace. Genuine apologies can transform relationships by creating space for empathy and healing. But genuine apologies cannot be rushed or demanded. They must be earned through reflection and understanding. This brings us to the question of forgiveness. Forgiveness and apology are often linked, but they are not the same. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, a release of bitterness and anger. It does not require an apology to be meaningful. Forgiving without an apology is an act of ultimate power. It breaks the cycle of dependence on others' validation. When you forgive without apology, you reclaim your emotional freedom. You show that your well-being does not hinge on others' recognition of their faults. This can be unsettling for those who demand apologies because it removes their leverage. It means you are no longer caught in their narrative. At the same time, forgiveness is not weakness. It is a conscious choice to let go of pain for your own peace. It requires strength to forgive when the other person refuses to acknowledge wrongdoing. And this strength shifts the power dynamic. It asserts that you control your emotional world, regardless of external circumstances. Another critical aspect to consider is the way social media and public discourse have transformed the landscape of apology. Public apologies are often performative, crafted for audience approval rather than sincere remorse. In this environment, apologies become spectacles, tools for reputation management rather than genuine accountability. This performativity can erode trust in the act of apology itself. When apologies are given to appease a crowd or protect an image, they lose their power to heal. Instead, they become part of a social game, a dance of appearances where no true ownership occurs. Understanding this helps us to be more discerning about the apologies we give and receive. Moreover, this performative culture pressures individuals into apologizing prematurely or insincerely, creating a climate of constant self-censorship. While accountability is essential, the demand for immediate and public apology can stifle honest dialogue and growth. It often prioritizes surface compliance over deep understanding. The power in apology, therefore, is not just in the words spoken, but in the context, the intention, and the freedom to choose. True apology requires space for reflection, humility, and the courage to face uncomfortable truths. Without these elements, apology becomes a hollow ritual, a sign of submission rather than strength. This brings us to the heart of the matter. Power is a relationship, not a possession. It flows between people, shifting with the currents of interaction and perception. Apology is one channel through which this flow is negotiated. By understanding this, you can navigate relationships with greater awareness, choosing when to engage in apology as an act of empowerment and when to withhold it as a form of protection. Imagine for a moment a world where apology is not demanded but freely given, where forgiveness is not conditional but a practice of inner freedom. In such a world, power is shared rather than hoarded, and relationships are built on mutual respect rather than coercion. While this may seem idealistic, it begins with the individual. Each choice to apologize or forgive with integrity shifts the balance of power inward, fostering resilience and authenticity. This inner power radiates outward, transforming interactions and challenging social norms. Ultimately, the message is clear. They do not want your apology, they want your submission. But you have a choice. You can give apology as a gift, not a concession. You can forgive as an act of liberation, not obligation. And in doing so, you reclaim your narrative and your power. This is the wisdom that comes from understanding the subtle mechanics of human interaction, the dance of apology and control, the negotiation of power through words and silence. It is a path that demands courage, self-awareness, and respect for one's own dignity. So, the next time you feel pressured to apologize, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this apology mine to give? Does it come from a place of strength and truth? Or is it a surrender to external demands that seek to diminish me? Your answer will shape not only that moment, but the very way you engage with the world. Because power is not about never apologizing. It is about choosing when and how to do so on your own terms, with full awareness, and without sacrificing your inner sovereignty.